So I was contemplating between Totem Spriggan or Minions Beastmaster build for my first primalist character in Last Epoch, and I decided I would try to greed it and do both. The idea is to find a way to synergize Totem and a type of beast minions that both would share the same damage multiplier and the rage mechanic that the Spriggan transformation uses. I came out with Cold Stormcrow and Totem Spriggan with Beastmaster as my mastery. These three type of skills share cold element and spell based damage, which allow them to synergize with one another pretty well. We ended up with 9 totems, 5 crows, 12 vines, and a Spriggan, and here's how they perform. The most notable thing about the build is that we are able to max out Power Claw, which gives the Stormcrow an additional 120% base damage in exchange for 6 mana point or rage per hit. This would have been difficult to maintain with 5 crow, but thanks to how the rage recovery works with Totem, it is sustainable in Spriggan form. While the minions and totems damage number isn't something outrageous, its sheer number makes up for clearing timelines and bosses fast and safe. Now let's talk about the minions. I'm going to be straightforward. Minions in Last Epoch are kinda dumb. They tend to lag behind and catch up when their allies are attacked or being attacked. In another word, they are docile, and as far as I know there is no way to make them more aggressive. Totem makes up for this delay by acting as the aggro which triggered the crows to follow through and start blasting. Crows are also not as tanky as the other minions in the roster, so if they die, the totem provides you with a secondary way to finish the fight or buy enough time for you to revive the crows. I think they synergize quite nicely. The freeze and chill raid from the cold build also allow for a safe playstyle to make up for the build's biggest weakness, our lack of tankiness. Okay, starting off with the skill tree. Our first specialization would be the Thorn Totem. At max level, including the bonus from Spriggan form, it will provide us with 9 totems. They will act as our aggro, tank, rage generator, and damage dealer. First, we would add a point or 2 into Force Expanse. This will increase the amount of totem we can summon up to 6. I would not max this until you get Spriggan form, since the mana requirement to summon will drastically increase along with the count. Then head down and grab Titan Bane. This will make the Thorn Totem more accurate and faster. Add 1 point into Spriggan Wrath next to it for target piercing for faster clearing. Then head right and grab Pillar of Hurrah, converting the totem damage to cold. Cold will allow the totem to synergize with Cold Stormcrow and Cold Summon Spriggan. Grab Frost Attunement, but save it for last since it won't be as effective until your Spriggan has Freeze Aura. With the last few skill points, head top right to grab Nightshade Briar for that 80% more damage at 20 Frostbite stacks. Last point, you can either get Rotten Core, which deal a bit extra damage if you spam the totem, or throw it into Winterwood for some flat cold damage. The second slot goes to Summon Wolf. The wolves are good for early game leveling until you get Stormcrow, but its main purpose is to give you an extra companion slot. Skill distribution for a Summon Wolf are pretty straightforward. Head left to grab Pack Hunter and then head right to grab Safety in Numbers. By the time you get these 2 skills, the third slot should be available for Stormcrow. And next is Stormcrow. Early on in the game, I recommend grabbing Thunderstruck first, which give a chance for the crow spells to chain up to 2 additional enemies, which help with clearing and leveling. At later phase in the game when clearing is no longer an issue, remove these skill points to add into Shadow Bolts and Pincers. Afterward, we would head toward the top left and grab Murder of Crows, which give 20% more damage per active crow. Next, add Frigid Wing to convert to cold damage to synergize with your totem and Spriggan. And last, once you got Healing Totem convert to Rage Totem, grab Power Claw, which give 120% more base damage in exchange for 6 MP or Rage per hit. Next up, Spriggan form. Head to the bottom right to grab Unbound Garden to be able to summon 3 Healing Totem at once. An additional 3 totem to your totem pool, bringing its number to 9. Along the way, you will also grab Spike Totems, which will let your Healing Totem attack with Thorn. Then head over to the Arrow of Tree after to turn your Healing Totem to Rage Totem. Head to the top to grab Hunter's Bane, which give your Vine skill range attack, and grab Ice Branch, which convert your Spriggan skills to cold damage. And last, head left to grab Garden of Rage, which allow your vines to generate some additional rage. This is less important, but in case you lazy out and forget to cast Totem, it will allow your vines to sustain your rage for a little bit. And your last specialization would be Summon Spriggan, arguably the most important skill in your arsenal. Spriggan is less of a damage dealer and more of an aura bot. First, head straight to the bottom right to grab Aura of Kinship, which give flat spell damage to the surrounding allies. Grab Aura Retribution, which give crit avoidance and base crit rate. This skill is deceivingly amazing. It adds 8% flat crit chance to your minion base crit of 12%, nearly doubling it. In fact, this skill to me is so amazing that I think any crit build on Primalist would benefit from this little guy. Next, head left to grab Frostleaf, which gives your Spriggan Aura freezing rate multiplier buff up to 200%. Grab Aura of Life and Aura of Loyalty to boost your Spriggan passive healing aura effect. Then for the last few points, you can do whatever. I personally grab Barbasol for a bit extra damage, but you can't go wrong with Force Razor for additional vines or Creeping Roots for some crowd control. Next are the equipment. I'm nowhere near the final setup I want, so these are just what I'm using right now. I'll glance over the swappable equipment, what I'm currently using, and my ideal endgame setup, but it's up to your preference at the end. Just keep in mind, I prefer a more glass cannon build and prioritize damage over survivability, so my items might not be the most optimal. First core item, the helmet Artor Legacy. This gives you that +1 companion slot to bring your total minion count to 6, and 2 skill points. Possibly the best helmet for Beastmaster minion build that is not scrolls. Next is your weapon, Apoch Frozen Light for your offhand. Give 3 skill points to cold minion skill and give chill chance to minions along with around 20% more damage to chill enemies. Main hand weapon is to your personal preference. You can go with a second Frozen Light or a Skeletal Scepter with additional base spell damage to minions. A good Exalted roll can net you +50 to your minion spell base damage, which is fairly nice considering your crow basic damage is 20. For boots, grab the Artera. This gives you a lot of extra health, faster movement, and healing effectiveness for you and your minions, and a chance to summon vines every second you move. While vines doesn't do that much damage, they do help stack frostbite, draw aggro, and generate rage. Being able to do that passively is just amazing. For rings, Silver Fun. This will give you your only traverser skill while in Spriggan form. For your second ring, Turquoise Ring with a lot of minion damage, attunement, health, and resistance will do. Glove, armor, amulet, sash, and relics will be swappable items. For these, you can focus on health, minion damage, and resistance, the basic go-to stats for survivability and more damages. For armor, I recommend either Shamanic or Greatwood Coat. Shamanic provide minion damage percentage while Greatwood provide minion spell base damage. I personally prefer Greatwood since flat base damage are hard to go by. Prefix and suffix preferably additional level to Stormcrow with minion damage increase, minion critical strike multiplier, and a lot of health. For gloves, Raven Rise is a good start off. It gives 2 skill points, some movement and damage reduction for your minions, and a lot of resistance. They are unique but fairly easy to get. Switch it out when you are rich enough to afford a good Exalted glove. For sash, I recommend Spider Silk Sash, with a lot of health, resistance, and minion damage. For relic, I recommend Living Seed with your preferential need. For amulet, I started off with Frozen Eyes of Formosus. It provides a lot of cold minion damage, freeze rate, and multiplier for your minions which help defensively. I will switch this out once you find something with similar damage boost with other defensive stats, but you would lose the extra freeze rate from Formosus, although I would think this is less important toward endgame. For idol, the typical health and whatever resistance you are lacking. I personally threw in a few idols with critical chance to minions because I like to see them yellow numbers pop out. For the passive skill tree, there's 2 typical options, either more defense or more offense. I personally prefer the more offensive route. On Primalist tree, grab Natural Attunement until you can get Health Restoration and Harmony of Blade to be able to equip an axe or sword in your offhand. Last few points, I threw it in Primal Medicine so the minions have some emergency healing options. Once you get your second class unlocked, Mastered Beastmaster, but add Druid points first. You would want to get Spriggan form and summon Spriggan as soon as possible. Put points into defense and offense until you get Rancor. For the rest of the points, try to grab Wind in the Leaves. Afterward, head toward Beastmaster and aim for Nature Embrace for that +1 companion. It should be the main target in the Beastmaster passive tree. The Beastmaster passive tree will be mainly defensive due to their offensive lineup are mainly for melee minions. I personally would just grab Nature Embrace and head toward the other classes. For the Shaman tree, grab Shamanic Infusion for some extra minion spell damage and penetration. Your remaining skill points can go to your personal preference. Some would recommend more health and defense, but I went YOLO with as much minion damage as I can. And there we have it, The build have its flaws, mainly dying due to the lack of defensive options, but the more passive playstyle would allow you to focus majority of your time dodging skill shots, so it somewhat make up for it. I personally enjoy the build and think it's one of the better ones that I have experienced in last Epoch. Let me know what you think of the build down below, and if you feel like it, hit that like and sub button right over there. And that is it. Thanks for watching. Ta-ta.